I believe that everybody has recently felt that the prices of everyday consumer goods have increased, and the price of a cup of general beverage has even increased by 30%. So, the latest hot topic in the market is about inflation. Before this, in the United States, the actual annual inflation rate are about 2% or so. Even after the 2008 U.S. financial crisis, when the U.S. Federal Reserve released a lot of money to the market, inflation did not become a real problem. This time, however, the situation is much more different. In March, the U.S. CPI, Consumer Price Index, rose 2.6% compared with the same period last year. Retail sales figures rose by 10.7%, which has given the warning of inflation. In April, the CPI rose to 4.2%, the highest level in September 2008, while the CPI rose 0.8% from the previous year, the highest in the past 40 years. In addition, the prices of crude oil and raw materials, etc., are also rising uncontrollably. In fact, the actual inflation is more serious than the CPI shows. Some economists even believe that we need to prepare for a recession now. This, coupled with the Russian-Ukrainian war, has exacerbated the severe problem of inflation. If this video proved to be useful to you, please share the video or subscribe to our channel, give a like and click on the bell icon. The following are the main reasons for the recent inflation. In response to the major economic shock posed by the two-year COVID-19 outbreak, central banks have funded large amounts of money into the market over the 2 previous years. With a large amount of money flowing in the market in tandem, this has greatly increased the demand for various products and sales. Under the principle of market supply and demand, the rise in demand will push prices up. The shortage of manpower and wage increases caused by the epidemic in various industries have raised the operating costs of businesses. Therefore, businesses pass on the increased costs to consumers and raise product prices. Previous outbreak control has caused serious disruption and impact on production lines and supply chains, and the problem has not been fully resolved yet. The war between Russia and Ukraine and sanctions by various countries, the boycott of Russian crude oil and natural gas by many countries, and the inability to continue the production line of Ukrainian agricultural products due to the war has caused a global shortage of raw materials and crude oil, under which prices have increased. A recent survey by Bank of America also shows that fund managers' concerns about inflation have now overtaken the pandemic as the most dominant risk in the market. Fed Chairman Jerome Powell has made an even more drastic U-turn to change his previous assertions and accelerate the pace of interest rate hikes to counter inflationary pressures. Inflation literally affects each and every one of us, and no matter how severe it eventually is, we must implement some countermeasures. In this episode, we'll take a look at how the average salary earner can deal with inflation and strengthen their financial situation. It all starts with frugality. We can't ignore the power of pennies, even if it doesn't hurt to spend them every time. If you take a cab every day, that's a lot of money to spend 365 days a year. This money can be saved to buy a good company stock, so you can earn dividends. On top of that, if you cut back on 1 cup of pearl milk tea or 1 expensive cup of coffee a day, plus the emotional spending you do every weekend, or if you go out to a nice restaurant with 3 or 5 friends every weekend, you can save money over the course of a year, not to mention the money you can accumulate after 3 or even 5 years. The concept of accumulating smaller amounts can make it easy for you to save money from your daily life. Now everyone has a smartphone. You can use these apps to help you keep track of and manage your finances faster and more conveniently and easily. These apps are easy to operate and use various graphical analysis features that allow you to record, update, set reminders, etc. at any time, so you are aware of your spending habits and financial status at a glance. When you know your basic monthly expenses, you will know how much you can save each month and you can set your savings goals. Without savings, everything is out of the question. Don't be a people who live from paycheck to paycheck. Nowadays, many people who earn a monthly salary don't save money because most of them say they don't earn enough and they can't save at all. The truth is, even if you earn a lot of money, it is always not enough, if you do not restrain your own desire for material things. Most people misunderstand the concept of living within one's means, and see it as spending as much as you earn, which is wrong. The truth is, being able to maintain your expenses steadily and keeping them within a fixed percentage of your overall income is the right thing to do. Even if you get a raise and your income increases, you maintain your previous spending habits and expense ratios, and even simplify your lifestyle more. And you must also understand that every penny you earn now, besides maintaining your current living conditions, you also have to take into account the unpredictable future contingencies, as well as future retirement. Therefore, saving money is very important for everyone, especially the salary earners. Especially the young working class should start learning to manage their money from the first day they enter the society, because it is very difficult to earn money. Many young people think that they are young and there is no lack of good job opportunities. Some people also think that they are young and have good income source, so they have no sense of worry. In fact, no matter what is your monthly income, how good it seems to have a good working life and prospects, you should know that there are many uncertainty in life: accidents, health, company reshuffle, pandemic, international emergency, etc., will have an impact on your income. I myself did have quite a few of friends and relatives who all suffered from cancer in their 30s and lost their jobs, income, and even their lives. As you can imagine, this is a very common occurrence. In addition to the life misfortune, there are also many factors of big picture that are not under your control, including economic, political, epidemic, or war conflicts. In today's world, where every country is closely connected to each other, the big picture can bring surprise at any time. There are too many young people with high monthly salaries at a young age, so they start buying designer brands, fancy cars, houses, and even develop the financial habit of overdraft. The dangers of overdraft are not always visible in the first year or two. But after a few years, they will often face the situation of famous cars and properties being seized. At this point, when combined with a poor career development, the well-built upper-class life instantly becomes a high-level liability. Goal number 1, you must know all your expenses and understand your basic expenses for a month. Then, you must also start setting a savings goal for yourself, saving the first pot of reserves or an emergency reserve that will last at least 6 months. Goal number 2, once you have a 6-month buffer, you can start planning for your next goal, which is to save money for investments so that you can make your money grow bigger by investing it. Goal number 3, the next goal is to purchase a property. The younger you start, the sooner you can address the matter of housing security for yourself in the future. Building financial credibility. The principle of the more you borrow, the richer you get is no lie. I must emphasize that you must not owe high-interest loans, such as credit card loans, if possible, because there is interest to be repaid on borrowed money. And credit cards can cause overspending, which is a bad thing. However, you can use credit cards to increase your borrowing credit score with the bank. With a good credit score, you will be able to borrow higher amounts of money from the bank on better terms when you need money for your future endeavors, such as buying a house, or starting a company to run a business, etc. The principle is very simple. If a person once borrowed $1 million from you and paid it back on time every time, then he will be able to borrow $1 million every time he asks you. But if a person once borrowed $200,000 from you, although each time it will be paid back on time, then later he needs to borrow $1 million from you, you may want to think about it. After all, you are not sure, when the amount borrowed is raised, does the same person have the same capability to repay the loan? The same applies for banks. So some people will gradually raise their credit score, choose to make big purchases, and then pay off what they owe in lump sum. This way, it will help them in the future when they have to negotiate about loan with the bank. Even if you have cash on hand, you should still get a credit card for spending. After spending, pay it off immediately, no matter what, never resort to revolving interest, and no matter what, do not pay the outstanding amount late. Not even for 1 day. As long as you choose a trustworthy bank, use their credit card for a long time, and develop good relationship with them, then you will be a VIP when you decide to get loans from them in the future. You can also use the same credit card to make purchases, and then use the bank account, which is also the issuer of the same credit card, to make direct debit payments, pay it off every month, just deposit the amount to be paid into the account regularly every month. This way, you can not only control your spending, but also build your credit score and, more importantly, avoid forgetting to pay and having a bad record in the banking system. The sooner you start investing, the better. A job allows us to earn a regular income. However, if we rely only on our physical, mental, and time just to work for money, our income is fixed and stable but limited, while the benefits of wealth appreciation are also limited. There are also many people who think that investing is a complicated task, or that it is risky and they are afraid to take action for fear of losing all the money they have earned. Ramit Sethi, the author of the book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich, mentions that the effect of investing and utilizing compound interest is very effective and can increase your wealth several folds. The book contains a calculation shows that the average monthly loan payment for a home in the United States is about $2,000. If this amount is invested in some index fund ETFs, the average annual return is 10 to 12%. That amount would accumulate to over $1 million after 15 years. And because of the compounding effect, $1 million will become $2 million in 5 years, then $3 million in 3 years, then $4 million in 2 years. In another year and 6 months, it will become $5.5 million. Of course, I'm not suggesting that you need to take all your savings and invest it in a fund. This is just to show and illustrate the benefits of compound interest. And even the most reliable funds can be affected by the general economic environment, which can cause the returns to drop. This is to help you understand the importance of investing and to make better decisions and more prudent choices in your own financial management. Instead of using the money to buy a luxury car, you can buy a cheaper and more practical car to get around, and then put the money you save on investments. 5 to 10 years later, when your financial situation becomes better, you can change to a better car. In the same time, it will also reduce the stress of a hefty vehicle loan. The ETFs we mentioned earlier are investment funds that track a certain market index. The so-called market index is a kind of data that can represent the condition of a certain economic market. For example, the S&P 500 index represents the 500 companies with the highest market capitalization among listed companies in the US. The market value of these companies is added up and calculated through a certain formula, market-weighted index, to obtain the index data. To some extent, it reflects the direction of the US economy. There are many different indices in each country's stock market, representing the economic performance of different markets. The ETF is an investment fund that follows the constituents of these indices. For example, SPY and VOO, which track the constituents of the S&P 500 index, invest in these companies in different sectors. The management fees for buying and selling these funds are low, and you don't have to manage it all the time, but just buy in a fixed amounts every month, or according to your financial objectives. This is a medium or long-term investment strategy for a minimum of 5 to 10 years, so you don't have to worry too much about short-term market fluctuations. And you can even buy more shares of the fund when the market falls sharply, after the price is cheaper with the share price dropping. As the economy recovers, it will pay off in the long run. Look at this chart below. After every economic crisis, the index always recovers and returns to the same level as before the decline, and the price still keeps climbing higher. The long-term trend is still going up. Over the past 50 years, the average annual return of the S&P 500 has been about 10 to 12%. Combined with the compounding effect, you can make a good return by staying invested in an index fund for a long period of time. Several famous investors such as Warren Buffett, Ray Dalio, and Howard Marks, among others, believe that investing in well-known and solid index funds is the most successful and straightforward investment method for the general public. Once again, the ideas expressed in this video are shared and not intended as investment advice for anyone or any institution. Any form of investment carries risk and investment must be done with care. Stay healthy, that is your greatest asset. We talked about earning, saving and investing with each other, and the ultimate goal is of course to pursue a better quality of life by improving our own financial situation. This is the system of values in this era. But you may also have heard that over the past decade or so, more and more people are dying, especially when they are still at a very young age. There are professions where you can earn millions of dollars a year in 2 or 3 years, but you have worked day and night, or even have a fatty liver index so high that you almost need a liver transplant to survive, or have an emotion disorder and have to take long-term medication. I myself have a friend who worked too hard in his career and became ill with cancer, and eventually lost his life. We need to earn money, but also need to have a life to spend it. This is the concept of values we need, rather than the blind pursuit of money at all costs. Health is the greatest asset in life. If making money is to pursue a better quality of life, then the moment you collapse because of illness, your life will not have the quality you are pursuing. Because every day lying in a hospital bed made of gold is no fun either. There are many people who work hard to make money, but also because of excessive work pressure, they often spend a lot of money on the weekend to relieve pressure. There are also some people for the pursuit of high achievement, high income, but paid it back with time, social compromise, mental stress, physical strength. These are also greatly depleted their physical health. With an annual salary of $1 million, later hospitalized for most of the year, these expenses also burn up through all the hard-earned money, and health can never be restored to its original state. When you are trying to figure out the life of quality income, you must also subtract the time spent on socializing, physical effort, public relations expenses, the stress of work that may drain your physical and mental health, or the expenses incurred to relieve stress, or the cost of high-stress work that leads to illness and the expenses of seeing a doctor, in order to figure out how much your quality of life has improved. While earning money, you must also try to maintain a good quality of life. It is important to have balance in your life and your finances, in order to have a stable lifestyle and financial stability, which is the most important point to mention at the end of this video. Let's do a recap. It all starts with frugality. The concept of accumulating smaller amounts can make it easy for you to save money from your daily life. Without savings, everything is out of the question. Knowing all your expenses, saving the first pot of reserves or an emergency reserve and money for investing. Building financial credibility. Develop a good relationship with the bank. The sooner you start investing, the better. Stay healthy, that is your greatest asset. That's it for today's sharing. If you find this video helpful, please do share it around, maybe you can help out someone in need. You can also leave your thoughts and comment below. If you would like to watch a related content next time, please subscribe to our channel, give us a like and click on the bell icon.